Hey there, ex-cult boy back sharing more of my experiences on the cult that I escaped 7 years ago, the Exclusive Brethren or the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church. Now, here is some rare footage of the inside of one of the main meeting rooms, as they call them, or church rooms. Basically, as much as they like to think they are a mainstream church and open for public worship, they are not, and this is why you probably have never seen this before. You'll note, unlike other churches, regular mainstream churches, they are a dish-shaped hall, and whereby the room is dish-shaped and the seats sort of like an auditorium incline inwards, if that makes sense. All the more prominent men sit in the front row. Those intravenous drip stands that you call them are just stands for the mics. So it kind of gives this whole overall interior design perspective of a 1970s Scientology cult room. And then the table there in the middle isn't always there. It's just set up, I think, for the Sunday morning ritual, whereby at 6 a.m. every Sunday morning you'd gather around a woman whose the only job of the women are to give out hymn numbers and do this 6 a.m. ritual where they bring in this loaf of bread and a cup of alcohol, and basically the men pray over it and pass it around to all the women and children and the men, and they would take a bit of bread and you'd pass it to the left, and then you'd drink the wine or the alcohol, and you'd in representation of the blood, and they'd feed it to babies as well and children. So everyone had to partake of this. An interesting thing too is that the men, the more prominent where you'd sit around the front and then sort of cater backwards to sort of the 8th row, and then the women would sit at the back, because the women have no place in this church, and by place I mean role, because they just literally sit at the back where there are no mics on their chairs. They're not allocated with mics, so they can't speak up. Just a little interesting insight into a Exclusive Brethren or a Plymouth Brethren Christian Church.